Gary Cooper remains one of the most recognizable figures from Hollywood's golden age, remembered for his calm presence, understated performances, and the natural sincerity he brought to the screen. Born Frank James Cooper on May 7, 1901, in Helena, Montana, he grew up far from film studios and flashing cameras. His father served as a respected judge, and his mother encouraged education and culture, creating a household that balanced discipline with creativity. Much of Cooper's childhood was spent outdoors on ranch land, where he learned to ride horses and developed the relaxed physical confidence that later defined many of his Western roles. The wide landscapes of Montana shaped his quiet demeanor and sense of independence. Long before he ever stepped onto a movie set, he carried the qualities that audiences would later associate with him: modesty, strength, and an almost effortless authenticity that felt genuine rather than performed. Education, art, and an unexpected path. Cooper's early ambitions did not point directly toward acting. As a teenager, he briefly studied in England, an experience that exposed him to new cultural influences before he eventually returned to the United States. He later enrolled in college with hopes of becoming a commercial illustrator, drawn more to drawing and design than performance. Life, however, had different plans. After a car accident left him with a leg injury and interrupted his studies, he moved to Los Angeles in the mid-1920s seeking practical work. The city was rapidly becoming the center of the film industry, and opportunities often appeared through simple introductions rather than formal auditions. What began as an attempt to find stable employment gradually shifted toward small film roles. Cooper did not arrive in Hollywood with theatrical training or dramatic ambition. Instead, he entered almost by accident, guided by circumstance, curiosity, and a willingness to try unfamiliar paths when earlier plans no longer fit. From background roles to breakthrough. Gary Cooper's first years in Hollywood were humble. He worked as an extra and occasionally performed stunt riding in silent westerns, roles that suited his physical skills and calm screen presence. Producers soon noticed that even in minor appearances he carried himself with unusual ease. His breakthrough arrived in 1926 with the winning of Barbara Worth, where a brief but striking performance caught industry attention. Unlike many aspiring who relied on exaggerated gestures common in silent films, Cooper projected restraint and naturalism. When sound films emerged at the end of the decade, he transitioned smoothly, a change that proved difficult for many silent-era performers. His soft-spoken voice and relaxed delivery became strengths rather than obstacles. Audiences found his style believable and approachable, and studios recognized that he offered something rare, an actor who seemed less like a performer and more like a person simply living within the story. Defining roles and lasting success. Through the 1930s and 1940s, Cooper built a remarkable career filled with memorable performances that established him as one of Hollywood's most dependable leading men. Films such as Mr. Deeds Goes to Town showcased his ability to portray ordinary individuals facing extraordinary circumstances with quiet dignity. His portrayal of World War I hero Alvin York in Sergeant York earned him his first Academy Award and confirmed his reputation for emotional sincerity. Cooper excelled at roles that required moral strength without loud dramatics. His characters often spoke softly yet carried deep conviction. Another milestone arrived with High Noon in 1952, where he played a lawman standing alone against danger when others refused to help. The performance earned him a second Academy Award and became symbolic of courage and personal responsibility. Across more than 80 films, his consistency and authenticity secured a permanent place. Marriage, family, and private life Away from the cameras, Cooper valued privacy and stability. In 1933, he married Veronica "Rocky" Balfe, a poised woman from New York society who had briefly appeared in films before choosing a quieter life. Their daughter, Maria Veronica Cooper, was born in 1937 and became a central source of pride for him. Friends often described Cooper as reserved in public, yet affectionate with family, preferring calm home life to Hollywood parties. Like many long marriages, theirs faced periods of strain, particularly during demanding work schedules and personal challenges, but reconciliation and mutual respect ultimately defined their later years together. Maria later wrote about her father with admiration, highlighting not only his professional achievements, but also his gentle manners and personal integrity. Amid an industry known for constant change, and he increasingly leaned toward faith and reflection as he grew older. Public image and the nature of rumors' fame in classic Hollywood often came with intense speculation, and Gary Cooper was no exception. Over the decades, magazines and gossip columns published stories about nearly every major star, sometimes blending fact with imagination. Historians generally agree that many sensational claims surrounding actors from that era lack reliable evidence and should be approached with caution. Cooper himself rarely addressed rumors, choosing instead to maintain discretion and focus on his work. What remains well documented is his professionalism, his dedication to craft, and the respect he earned from colleagues across the industry. The culture of old Hollywood thrived on mystery, and silence often allowed speculation to grow. Yet when examining his life through verified records, films, interviews, and family accounts, a consistent portrait emerges of a thoughtful, private individual who preferred understatement over controversy and allowed his performances rather than headlines to shape his legacy. Later years and health challenges. By the late 1950s, Cooper's health began to decline, though he continued working with determination. He appeared in films such as Friendly Persuasion and The Hanging Tree, demonstrating the same calm authority that had defined his earlier career. Behind the scenes, however, he was facing serious illness. Known for his privacy, he kept much of his medical struggle away from public attention and chose to work as long as his strength allowed. Friends described him during this period as dignified and composed, focusing on meaningful time with family while remaining grateful for the career he had experienced. His final projects reflected maturity rather than spectacle, emphasizing character depth over physical action. Even as his physical condition weakened, his reputation for professionalism never faded, and colleagues continued to speak of him with admiration and warmth. A legacy of quiet strength. Gary Cooper passed away in 1961 at the age of 60, marking the end of a career that had spanned more than 3 decades. Tributes from fellow actors, writers, and directors emphasize not only his cinematic achievements, but also his humility and kindness. He was initially laid to rest in California, and later reinterred in New York at his family's request, reflecting a desire for peaceful remembrance rather than public spectacle. Today, Cooper's legacy endures through his films, which continue to introduce new generations to a style of acting rooted in simplicity and truthfulness. He represented a form of heroism that did not rely on loud gestures or dramatic speeches, but instead on sincerity and moral clarity. In an industry often driven by changing trends, Gary Cooper's enduring appeal lies in his authenticity, a reminder that quiet confidence and genuine emotion can leave the strongest impression of all.